Can a pipe rifle really decapitate you? Can it really destroy your skull like that? Well, first off, we are only considering the stock pipe gun. Fallout 4 allows for hundreds of possible weapon mods and combinations. It just isn't productive or feasible to consider anything niche like a finned, long barrel sighted, calibrated, ported, super ultra marksman legendary pipe rifle. But don't worry, this pipe gun alone will still be a hassle. In fact, most of the video is going to be spent compensating for it. Why? Well, just look at it. What gun is this based on? It's literally a bunch of pipes taped together in a menacing form, like a Frankenstein weapon. On its face, I want to say that any bullet from this thing, if it could shoot it in the first place, would be non-lethal. In fact, these things might be more dangerous for the user than the target. Let's compare it to a gun that's actually based on something. Pipe guns use .38 rounds, which aren't used by too many in the game without customization. The easiest to compare would be the hunting rifle. It is apparently a Remington Model 700. It looks especially close when we put on a full stock long barrel. When we switch it to use .38 rounds, the only meaningful stat that changes is the damage, which is reduced by 9 points. That's a 24% drop. Let's go to the Remington website and select the .308 caliber rifle, which is the stock rifle for the game. Unfortunately, I know a decent amount about kinematics, but not much about rifles. Especially not this one specific rifle, but the internet says 1000 yards if you are highly trained. Now, considering our player character can slow down time, eat hundreds of bullets, run on hours on end, I think we are highly trained. Lethal at 1000 yards. In-game, the long barrel adds .84 to the rifle's base 131. If we add in a long scope, that's another .36 for a total of 251. 251 in-game range is equivalent to 1000 yards. I'm gonna go ahead and just say 1000 meters. This is reasonable range for a fatal shot, at least for a weapon with the base damage of 37, which goes down to 28 when we swap it to .38 rounds. In Fallout 4, damage and range are independent stats and all bullets travel instantly. But that's stupid and unrealistic, and I reject that notion. I interpret damage as the gun's ability to accelerate its bullet. So lowering it by 24% will reduce its velocity by 24%, which will reduce its maximum range by 24%. The Remington's got a muzzle velocity of 2,820 feet per second, so we can drop that down to 653 meters per second. Yes, I did both conversions at the same time. However, the .38 round is lighter and should travel further. It weighs 7.127 grams. The .3008 weighs 9.712 grams. This is a decrease of 26.6% in weight, which will increase our maximum distance by the same amount. It is now 827 meters per second. The power per meter per second is 827 divided by 28 equals 21.7. We can now do a bit of backwards math to figure out how fast the .38 round should be moving, if it could fire it. At 13 damage, it has a range of 83 in-game units. As a reminder, real-life meters to in-game range was basically multiplying it by 4, so it's 332 meters effective range in real life. The power per meter is 332 divided by 13 equals 25.5. To get it to equal 21.7, it must have a time interval of 1.175 seconds. We can conclude that the pipe gun fires .38 rounds a bit faster than a real Remington would. Since we need to measure a wider time interval to come up with the same power per meter, it's about 17.5% faster. Again, the velocity of the Remington was 2,820 feet per second at the muzzle, so our pipe rifle is somehow doing 3,313 feet per second, which is 1,010 meters per second. We're almost there. Now we consider the strength of the human skull. Despite its appearance, the skull has many fracture points. After all, babies are born with large holes in their skulls simply to make the head easier to push out the birth canal. Also, the skull tends to be thicker at the forehead, presumably where combat is most likely to happen. But that isn't even the part that's most resistant to stress. That's a video for another day. The skull reaches failure at between 2.4 and 5.6 gigapascals depending on where you attack from. So what force is our bullet putting out? Let's use Newton's famous equation, force equals mass times acceleration. We have the mass, 7.127 grams. The acceleration is the change of velocity over time. The Remington 700 can accelerate a theoretical .38 round to 827 meters per second in a distance of 16.5 inches. That's the length of its barrel. If we plug it into a kinematics equation and convert it to meters, that's 903,000 meters per second per second. By the way, our pipe rifle is more powerful than a Remington, so I feel confident in this wacky high number. That's a force of 6,435 newtons. The bullet diameter for the .38 round is 9.1 millimeters, which is an area of 6.5 times 10 to the negative 5 meters squared. So the force per meter square is therefore 99 million. That's a lot. So, but what's that in gigapascals? Is 0.099 gigapascals. Yeah, that's really low. That's even lower than our lowest bound of 2.4 gigapascals to cause skull failure. So the pipe rifle is nowhere near strong enough to crack someone's skull, much less explode it. So could this footage happen? No, it could not happen.